Hey guys, it's Bethany from Pencils and Prayers, and today I am doing a super fun collab on my September basket. I'm going to be doing it with a bunch of other YouTubers. They're awesome. It is hosted by Rooted in Rest and The Waldock Way. And let me tell you, those two ladies have been such an influence to me in my homeschool journey, and I am honored to be able to participate in this collab with them. So check out their channels when you're done with this one. Drop a comment on their videos to tell them how that has helped you. Feel free to comment on mine too to let me know that you went over there. And without further ado, let's jump into my morning basket. So for our family, for a long time, we had an actual basket that we would put our books in. And usually what I have found is that during the summertime, having a basket is perfect because we have a lot less material. But now as we start our Classical Conversations school year, which is our formal school year because we homeschool year round, but we do a lot more textbooks and things during the traditional school year. Now I have transitioned from the morning time basket, which is for summer, into the cart. And if you're a homeschool mom, you know what the cart is. Anytime we have a morning basket, I always have my mommy morning binder. And I will link some of the videos that I have that kind of talk about this. I go through a more in-depth review of my morning time binder, and I also have a morning time routine video. But in here, I have, this is a math game that we go over sometimes, but in here, I have our daily prayer guide. So we start our morning time with praying for different subjects for different days of the week. I have our daily affirmations, which I can, I am, I will, I ought. If you're familiar with Charlotte Mason, we get it from there. We have a calendar, and the kids both have this in theirs, where we trace the days. Then we have a printable I made where we write, you know, the day, name, the month and the year and the day number. Then we go over the weather and a weather chart, which I clearly have to change for September. Sometimes I practice writing their name. And then we have our verse of the month and our poem of the month. And this poem comes from one of our read alouds, which I will show you in a minute, that is produced by Classical Conversations, and I absolutely love it. So that is our morning time binder. The next thing that we often do is our catechism. Now, I found out that a friend of mine, her sister actually wrote this book. I had no idea. We are Reformed, and so we really believe in studying scripture as our primary source, and then also studying documents that church fathers have put out to help us summarize and understand scripture, because sometimes scripture can be really confusing if you don't know the history and the cultures and things like that of scripture. And so what a catechism or church doctrine does is it helps take all the information that you may not know as a mayperson, and it summarizes it so you can have a quick grasp of what fundamental truths of the faith are. So right now we're going through this Westminster Short Catechism for kids. This helps us do some of our Bible study. We also do a Bible book in the morning during breakfast, and that is a Bible story book, and then this is more of our doctrinal study. Something that I forgot to mention that I love to keep in my morning time cart is my planner, and this is a lifesaver. I got this from Michael's. It's their Recollection planner, and it's just like the Erin Condren one, just without so many of the bells and whistles. And so if you take a look at this, I love the layout, but we're talking about morning time. And so what that includes would be our enrichment studies. So Bible, binder, catechism, penmanship, and CC work. So this I usually keep in my morning time basket or cart because it helps me check off all the different things that we do in our morning time and enrichment study. Classical Conversations Foundations Guide. This is cycle 3. And this we're going to be adding into our morning time routine as we start the school year tomorrow. This is chock full of just memory work every week, going over the basic subjects. So math, English, your timeline, knowing history, a history sentence that kind of puts a peg on the timeline of your memory of what has happened throughout the world's history, science. And basically, it just gets our kids ready to know a little bit about everything. And I'll kind of give you a little sample of what it looks like. It's just, you know, math, Latin, science, English, the timeline, and then we have some hands-on stuff that we do at our community day. But this is truly the spine of how our formal school year goes, because whatever we are studying in history and science, that kind of evolves or kind of tapers into all the other things that we have in our school year. Next in our morning time basket for September and every month is our penmanship. Now for my daughter, when we work on penmanship, I love these dry erase, these wipe clean books by Pretty Books. This is the Dot to Dot for Tiny Tots. And so I love how simple and clean it is. It's not overwhelming. It's great for your 4s and 5-year-olds. And then for my son, we are working on cursive. So this is purchased from half100acrewood.com. She used to be in classical conversations, so she has a lot of classical conversations material that you can use to supplement that. But it's you don't have to be in CC to enjoy her stuff. She has amazing, Brandy is her name. She has amazing content that she's produced to help you with a classical or otherwise homeschool model. So this is a very simple book. I ordered it, I think it was $12. I ordered it online, printed it out, and then I bound it myself, which I'll do another video on that. I love Pro Click binders, but I don't want to get carried away. So we have our penmanship, and usually my kids will do penmanship when I'm doing like a read aloud, or if they need something to do with their hands. It just kind of keeps them grounded, but keeps their hands busy. Speaking of that, we have this nice little glass jar that is filled with all of our writing and some art supplies. We do have a couple of scissors, gel pens from the Dollar Tree, which are amazing. The Dollar Tree has really stepped up their game with their school supplies. Some dry erase markers. We have these Expos, and then I do like these the click ones. Sometimes my kids forget to click them, but that's okay. And then mechanical pencil, which I use largely for my planner, and then a whole bunch of colored pencils. But this is really nice because it's solid. I can take it out, set it on the table, and then when we're done, I take it and set it back in my rolling cart. Next in our morning time basket, we have First Language Lessons by the Well-Trained Mind. Guys, this is an awesome book. It takes a little getting used to, especially if you're not familiar with the classical model, but the classical model is very big on rote memory and repetition. And so when we first started this, I actually got off routine with this because it was so redundant and repetitive. And as much as I loved classical education, this took a while to understand that repetition is key. And so if you can get past the first handful of weeks where you're repeating a noun, you know, what the definition of that and a bunch of other things, it's going to be great because that repetition solidifies memory in your brain, and kids are like sponges. And so I highly recommend this. It's a phenomenal book that helps you work with those beginning language skills, what a noun is, what a pronoun is, what a verb is, when you capitalize things, a proper noun, things like that. So we do this also every day. So in my morning time basket, I have just one book. This is the Usborne, I don't even know, but the I Can Draw Animals book. And when I have things like that, it's because I want to keep my kids busy while I'm reading so that they are focused, they are sitting still, and they can listen while their hands are busy. So I will take this. I usually have a couple whiteboards or notebooks so that they can just draw and have something to kind of keep their attention a little bit. Okay, so now that I've talked about the morning time basket stuff for the morning, I also want to talk about our enrichment studies. So our enrichment studies, as I call them, are also what you may hear in the homeschool community as loop studies. So these are those good and beautiful materials that aren't as technical, or I don't want to say necessary, but they're not as standard as your reading, writing, arithmetic, math. So what we have there is our current read aloud, which this is by the American Adventure, and it's called The Mayflower Adventure. This is book 1 in the series, and because in classical conversations we are starting to go through American history, I thought this would be a really great way to take some nonfiction, some historical fiction, and add a little bit of fun and interest in it for the kids. Next, we have The Good and the Beautiful, The Human Body. So in Classical Conversations Cycle 3, we are going over the body, and we're not going to do a ton of crazy stuff because we do have a hands-on science day on our community day for our CC Classical Conversations co-op. But I did want to take the things that we are learning in this and pair it up so that we have a little bit more refining of the information. Now, my kids are young. I have a preschooler and a second grader, and so it's not super important that we know all of these things, but at this point it's exposure, and their brains are just soaking up everything. So I would like to expose them to as much wonderful content as I can while they're young and while they can retain it really well. So a little bit more on history. I have 3 things here. So the first is by Abeka. This is called Our America, and it is a summary that is age appropriate for your elementary students on American history. And I love that it talks about the separatists and pilgrims and the religious reality of why people came to America, which is for religious freedom. And unfortunately, in a lot of history books, you don't get that. They wipe that clean. So I really appreciate this Our America book. The next thing we do is we are starting Story of the World. We have had this for a year, maybe a little bit longer, and we didn't get into it last year. My kids were young and I was still figuring out our second year of classical conversations, our third-ish year of homeschooling, and I didn't know how to fit this in. Now that I have a better routine, I feel a lot more confident, and I have a guide that will help us read through things in this book to correlate with our history, which is initiated by our classical conversation studies. And one of the books that I am most excited about for our September morning/enrichment basket is this, New World Echoes. Now, you do not have to be a Classical Conversations member, user, community day attendee to get this, but what CC has done, and I am not an affiliate, I'm not paid, whatever. This is, you can just order this from their website. And what it is cycle 3, like I said, is American history. And last year, I believe, was medieval, I think, if I can remember correctly. But they've started creating books that it's just a collection of beautiful literature that goes week by week with what we are studying in history for our CC memory work. And so since we're going through American history this year, it is chock full of beautiful classical American stories, poems, and things like that. And it also has, let me see if I can find a page here. It also has beautiful art that is paired with what we're reading. So if you are going through American history or if you went through medieval history, I highly recommend going to classicalconversations.com and picking yourself up one of these books, because it will save you so much time trying to find books that pair literature for those time periods. Trust me, this is amazing. So next, we're going to talk about language. I am interested in this. However, I do want to purchase the Sing Song Spanish, which I will be purchasing here in a couple days. But I wanted to show you, this seems like a really great curriculum. I have not used it yet, but it seems great because it has a disc where you can watch. You can participate in singing, and if you're a classically minded person or have children, you know that kids do really well when you put memory work to song. So I'm really interested in checking out the Sing Song curriculum, whether it is Latin or the Spanish. And lastly, we have our nature study. So nature study is something that I feel like is really easy to kind of get out of sync with, especially living in South Dakota, where we have like 4 months of warm weather and the rest we're in a frozen tundra. But for our nature studies, what I would like to do this year is 1 day a week we actually dedicate time to working in our nature journals or going outside. Like I said, we have a lot of snow. It's September and part of our state is actually going to be getting snow this week, I think. But what I do have for our nature studies is The Julia Rotham Nature Anatomy book. Of course, this is a classical book that many homeschool families have, but it is absolutely beautifully illustrated. It's fun, it's engaging, and it's fun to display so that you can, your kids can see what it is that you're learning. We are going through trees right now. It's kind of dragged out because we've been very busy this summer, and like I said, nature study is something that, at least for my family, we can kind of forget. We also use the Nature Study Handbook, and pretty much between those two things, that's where we pull our information from outside of seeing it outside. And then the guide that we use is the Exploring Nature with Children. This gives us our routine, and those other two books are what we may pull our information from. For the month of September, like I said, we are doing trees. I did purchase one other book, and that is the DK Book of Trees. This is a beautiful book, and it goes into so much detail about the ecosystem of trees, why we need trees, what we use trees for, the different types of fruit and things that can grow from trees. It's just a really cool book, and so I thought this would be a fun one for us to go through at least on Fridays, and this will definitely be one that we will be holding on to and trying to keep in really good condition. So I hope you enjoyed my September morning basket / enrichment basket. What do you think? Are there any things that you would add? What is different about yours? Do you keep your enrichment books with your morning time basket too? Do you even use a basket? Comment below with any of your suggestions if you think I could do something a little bit easier or you have a greater idea, because I'm only starting out. This is like my 4th-ish year. So if you have any comments on how to make this easier or more fluid for me, let me know down below in the comments. Share with me what you've been using and what has worked or hasn't worked for you. As always, feel free to like or subscribe this for more videos. Thank you so much for watching, and be sure to check out all the other ladies in the September morning basket playlist. And until next time, bye.